Hey there, Tin Can fam, and welcome to another episode of Can to Can, the Tin Can Bros podcast where I see how many times I can say can in the intro. This week we have our very first double guest interview. That's right, you're getting two for the price of one. You probably know Brian Holden and Meredith Stepien from StarKid, their comedy pursuits at I.O. Chicago, or from their adventures in space at the Adler Planetarium. We talked to them back in June about Pure Michgian, audiobooks, and sex with friends. So here's hashtag Meredith is real.
Lords and ladies and others, please welcome Brian and Meredith
Hi!
to Talking Trash.
Perfect.
I finally made it into a tin can show.
It's been a long time coming.
Well, guys, we don't know if we'll ever be able to do live shows ever again. That's the problem. But in the event that we did and we were able to ever do another, kill our guest, there was an idea in our mind at one point where we were like, it would be fun to go do it in Chicago with you guys.
Yeah. That would be so fun. But remember, our current goal is to all buy houses around a lake together and live there.
Yes, you're right. So we'll just do them on the lake.
Yeah,
we'll get a pontoon. Yeah, we'll just get a pontoon and everyone has to come out and just ride their boats around. It's like those church services that happen on lakes, like in Ozark.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Highly recommend.
Oh, it's great.
Is it
That's great.
It's a wintertime show, right?
No, it's a summer show.
It's a summer show.
Why do I think Ozark means like polar bear?
I don't know.
Oh, you're thinking Pozark. No, Ozark is. It's like about the Ozarks in Missouri.
Oh,
Aren't they mountains, forests?
It's like a lakey forest area. That's where Brad Pitt is from.
No one has seen this show or knows anything about it.
No. I've watched 3 seasons. Well, how are you guys?
Good.
We're good.
You're in Michigan.
We're in Pure Michgian at my parents' house. This is not what our home looks like. This is what some Midwestern folks' home looks like.
It looks like a set. It looks like it's so well appointed.
We got a Thomas Kincaid. We got a bust of Beethoven. We got a creepy frame picture of my brother.
A piano. This is a chair that has like a floral upholstery drape over it.
Yeah.
What do you call this? A chair cover?
And then my chair's squeaky, so I think I should switch it out actually.
Well, let the chat tell us how the squeaks is. If you hear a squeak, guys, just say squeak real loud.
Yeah.
You guys subscribe if the chair squeaks.
Maybe use
smash
the
that
accent things you say. Like if there's something you really want to drive home, just give us a little squeak afterwards.
You guys don't even get it.
Yeah, or just for fart stuff. For good fart humor.
Oh yeah, this is something I can use as an excuse if I fart. All right.
Yeah, I go, my chair just shit my pants.
This stinks. What does the chair squeak?
I think it's pretty clear. I think, Meredith, you have a pretty public sort of aesthetic, and I think we can kind of see that it's trickled down from your parents.
Definitely when you, not so much this room, but when you walk around my home, it's very much you can see why I love things like Jane Austen and animals.
Did you have any very Austonian customs in your house growing up? When you supped together, was there any proper stuff going on?
Oh yeah, my brother and I went through manners school to learn manners. And
really?
We had tea time at 4 p.m. and it's a very English. There's always pots of tea, but a proper teapot full of tea.
Yeah.
Did you do, when you say manners school, is that cotillion?
No, it was just from my mom to. It was just from my mom to us. It was just learn how to sit up straight, put a napkin on your lap, no elbows on the table, and here's where the silverware goes.
She was pretty straight edge. That's why she ended up bad boy like me.
Ooh.
All right, Brian, how did you grow up?
Brian, what kind of school did you go to?
I was born on the back of a motorcycle.
Okay.
That's why you like to go fast, huh?
Yeah. Now I grew up in northern Michigan, so we're kind of back in Michigan for a few weeks here. while they do some construction on a hole in our apartment.
You're there for a few weeks during the hole?
Yeah, it'll be 2 weeks on Monday. And then I think we're going to stay for a few more days after that.
Now, how big is the hole?
Well,
The
it
hole is
started
huge.
it started as no hole and it was just a wall. And then and then
Okay.
then a few weeks ago in Chicago, actually probably a month by this point, it started to rain really bad.
More
And
than a month.
we got a leak in our apartment. And so in order to look at the leak and see if there was any damage from the leak, our landlord smashed a hole in our wall.
Good.
And we were like, huh, okay. And he basically was like, hey guys, listen, the hole actually wasn't big enough. And so he came back the next day and smashed a bigger hole. And
Just with his fist?
he the first day it was just like with a box cutter. He was like,
It was like
he cut like a hole like this big. But then the
Okay.
next day when he came back, it was like the entire length of the wall he chopped off above the door frame. And he like basically found like some mold in there, found some moisture. So they had to repair it. And so we quarantined for 2 weeks so that we wouldn't put Meredith's parents in danger. So we like didn't leave the house for 2 weeks before we came here. But then since we've been here, we've gone outside a ton, which is nice.
Yeah, it's so much easier here. But yeah,
Nice.
yeah, we quarantined with the moldy hole, and I got like a sty in my eye or my eyelid.
You got a
And
sty?
I got one.
Sty in the eye from mold in the hole?
I got
This is the worst children's book ever.
and then I also got a clogged ear. These are two things I've never had before, and they were like, I had a virtual doctor's appointment, and they're like, that's just sounds like mega allergies. And I told them about the moldy hole, and they're like, yeah, you should get out of that apartment.
Yeah.
Oh.
Mold is
Whoa.
like the real deal. When we had a hole in our ceiling a year and a half ago. We had a hole, and we slept out in our living room for like a month. And they like in treating the mold were like, oh, we just gotta like let it air out. It's like, no, you need like real tools to deal with this.
That same thing happened to us. He was like, I think I'm gonna let this air out.
Yeah, he pointed a fan
And he
at
put
it.
a fucking
No.
you put a fan on the hole, and like something inside me was like, no, this doesn't make sense. And I Googled it, and like the first thing it says is try and seal off the moldy area so that it doesn't get contact to air.
Right.
So I turned the fan off. I whipped my little butt over to Lowe's and got some like plastic sheeting and just taped it up right away.
You did a really good job. We'll throw up a virtual background on one of our screens of the
We'll 100% do that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we will.
God, that is nuts. But at least when you go back, hopefully you'll have like a nice, clean, and like mold-free apartment and the no hole.
With a nice big patch that doesn't match the paint around it.
Yeah, we are a little scared about that. Our landlord, while he effed up big time, is actually a nice guy and has like since gone out of his way to so they finished the work in our apartment already, and he like cleaned everything up for us. He like stayed after the workers to like sweep and mop everything, and has been, pretty attentive, because I think he realized what a big mistake he made.
Yeah, and what an inconvenience it is now of all times.
Oh yeah.
Like right now being like, oh, I have to deal with this now. So
I feel like really quick, we should just, for like 30 seconds, just give context if anyone doesn't know who you guys are.
That's a good
I
idea.
assume
okay,
people know who you are, but just really quickly, we met Brian and Meredith at the University of Michigan in the acting program. Brian was a clown and put himself in a suitcase in a show about JB. Meredith made a goofy movie show, and then we did StarKid together, and now they live in Chicago and they're vacationing in Michigan while they clear the mold out of their hole. Is that about cover it?
No, great.
that is
Can you write that down and send it to me so I can?
Yeah, sure.
This is iced tea, just in case people are like, is she just drinking whiskey?
it just seems like you're enjoying
why
a
not?
nice, like southern
Yeah.
summer.
Quarantine Meredith's a little bit different.
Hey, quarantine
Just
all of us
squeak,
is a little
squeak.
bit different.
Yeah, what if the squeak continues when you get out of the chair? It's just always with you. It's just you.
And the squeaks just smell like methane gas. It's called farts.
Up until the hole being in your wall, though, how were you guys like getting through / enjoying / hating quarantine? Like how has it been?
Well, it's a mix of like everything that it was like at first just thinking like, oh, we're just gonna be home for, we were supposed to just be home for like 2 weeks. That was like the plan for Chicago. But I was like, there's no way it's gonna be less than a month or a month and a half. But then I was like, but there's no way that I won't be able to go to New York in May and then to LA in May. You know what I mean? I had all these plans. And then quickly it just became like way more serious. It was just a day to day, like every day there was just new information, and like it got scarier and scarier. And oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and now there's no information.
Yeah, it's still day to day, but now it's
now we just don't know anything any day.
We don't know anything. Yeah. And then we also had the added trauma of like knowing that big layoffs were coming at our jobs, or at both work.
We both were working at the Adler Planetarium in Chicago. And there was a big change in the stay-at-home thing once a lot of the governors and mayors, for people who live in bigger cities as well, started laying out the phase plan. Because then you had an actual idea of when you could, go home or whatever, or not go home, leave home is more like it, but like go back to normal. And so once we got that, they kind of, at the planetarium, it kept all of us employed. But once they realized how challenging it was going to be to reopen the planetarium, like as business as usual. So they told everyone with a week's notice that like they were going to have to be laying off a lot of people like a week later, basically. And then they did. They fired 120 people, and I was one of them. But I was only working there 1 or 2 days a week in 2020. So I was part-time. And my whole job there was narrating planetarium shows, so it's dependent on an audience. Meredith had been working there full-time, but was able to keep her job, so she still works there. Though, it's different. A lot of our friends lost their jobs and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know how much you want to talk about it.
Well, I mean, it's just traumatic. Everybody around everywhere is kind
around everywhere.
Going through this in some way or another, and it's definitely a totally messed up thing.
Yeah,
have to navigate.
It's been interesting to watch different companies navigate it correctly and incorrectly. It's a wild time, and obviously it's like unprecedented, but it's just truly a time to see how leaders react under duress in all areas of life.
Absolutely.
Most people aren't rising to the occasion. or if they aren't, the good thing is that at least there seems to be some sort of listening to in response to the way people are reacting. I mean, at the very least, did you see that like AMC is opening up in July, and then they announced that like we don't need masks.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they announced that, everyone was like, you guys are the worst. And then they totally backtracked on it. So you're like, hopefully that's the case. Because like you said, when this started, it's like, I think we thought come July, we'll be getting back to, at least everyone will have paid attention to what's going on, respected the process, and maybe we'll all be in this together. And now it really does feel like a free for all, where it's like, I don't know.
I can't believe, sorry, can you see my butt? No, you can't. The no mask thing is blowing my mind. Just wear a mask, and I hope that everybody watching, I'm sure that you all agree and have a mask. If you don't have a mask, you can make one pretty easily. But yeah, it's just, you just gotta wear a mask. If everybody wore masks, this virus would be gone so soon. Like it would be so much more manageable.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just don't get it. Why? It's just a piece of fabric over your face. Why risk somebody else's life? And if you're just like, we were talking about this earlier, how wearing a mask right now is just a way of like, when you walk past somebody, a stranger, you're just saying like, hello, hope you have a nice day, and I hope that your life continues.
Versus just like a big fuck you.
Yeah, it's like walking around with a middle finger all the time, just going.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. Just put it on.
You see people all over without masks. It's really disturbing.
Yeah, I love how good it feels when somebody's passing, or like, I see somebody in the distance coming close and I put my mask on. It just feels so good to be like, I'm saving your life.
Right. Well, it's not about you. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's like a mind shift for Americans, though.
Yeah. Exactly.
Care about my neighbors. Like,
Yeah.
it's so foreign.
That's the whole point of being free.
Is I don't want to have to care about anyone else. I want to only care about me. You can't spell free without me.
It's been heartening though to know and how many people in my direct like friend group and network are the type of people who are very responsible and considerate of others. So, you know what I mean? Like, I haven't really had to have that conversation with many of my friends. Like, everyone is equally as taking it as serious as I am.
Yeah.
My mom's telling me about like being invited to these things where her friends will be like, you know, I don't think my mom has experienced this personally, but like a lot of her friends are starting to try and hang out, and like they'll be like, come over, we did such a good job, we've cleaned everything, we'll all wear masks, we'll stay spaced out in the front yard. And like they'll get, like their friends will get there and nobody has masks on, and they're like, we decided it's fine.
It's
and
a bait and switch.
It's a bait and switch, and it's just like, it's such a, and I get the like feeling when you're around people who, you know, have been quarantining, and you get there and like you start to feel normal and you start to get a little closer to each other and everything. I get how that can happen, but don't have like a big group of 20 people over to your house and just not commit to wearing masks or like doing the things you gotta do. You just gotta do them.
Well, also, when people are like, we're like doing such a good job cleaning, I'm like, that's really not the problem. That's not how you're gonna get it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that after all these months now, they've said 100% the most effective thing you can do is if both people are wearing a mask, and if both people are 6 feet apart, then there's like almost no chance of contracting it.
Have you guys gotten an antibody test or even just a test yet, just to see if have you gotten those?
We didn't do antibody because from what we hear, it's just not accurate. I don't know.
It doesn't, well, and even if it is accurate, we don't know how much protection that actually confers.
Yeah, like what does that even mean? But
We're
Brian
the
got
science branch of the Tin Can
regular
Brothers.
COVID.
Oh, you got yours, Brian?
And how'd you do?
I did so well. I studied for a long time. So we got here to Michigan and, took all these extreme measures to really make sure we were safe and not bringing COVID-19 with us, even in an asymptomatic way, to Chicago. So like I said, we stayed inside for 2 weeks. We only ordered food, only ordered groceries,
Sanitized everything.
and then drove straight here. So we were like, we're good.
And before that, we were being super
Yeah.
nutso about it as well.
Yeah, just like the normal level of care, but we would go on walks. We cut that out completely in the 2 weeks prior to getting here. And then as soon as we got here, I started having like chest tightness, or what I would describe as like shallow breaths, and I was like, I was like, please don't let me kill Meredith's parents. I'll take the tension away right now. It was just allergies, because as soon as we got here, as soon as we got here, it looked like it was snowing. There was so much like allergen and pollen in the air. It was just all over.
The cottonwoods were shedding.
Yeah. And also, I hadn't been outside in 2 weeks. So like I just got hit full force with the allergy thing.
Your immune system was just completely like,
Yeah.
what? Huh?
On the first day of being here, I was like, it's like we had done some walks and I didn't pay too much attention to it. And then on the second day, when it persisted and I was like, it was getting worse, I was like, I'm really scared. And I told Meredith, and
we were like on it. We had just left for a walk. Brian was like in a fine mood, and we just started walking, and he was like, I feel tightness in my chest, which is just such a instant. We were like, but here in Michigan, he was able to make an appointment, go get a COVID test, all in an hour.
Yeah. I found out.
Wow.
I got the results like a day and a half later, but it was super easy to get a test here. So that was good. Yeah.
We got one. On Corey's recommendation, you got one too. Because that Dodger Stadium isn't
It's a drive-through.
baseball. It's like a drive-through thing where they got a bunch of cones set up.
Yeah.
And like you keep your window rolled up and they're just screaming at you instructions, at least in my experience.
They throw the test up and they hit it with a bat from home plate.
No, they have like the little claws.
Yeah, it's the best part, like one of those extender grabbies.
And they're like, our person was in a shipping crate with like bars, and it was like we were talking to a prisoner as we were giving them information, and they were going, what's your name? And then we're like, and they're like going and typing it. And then they put a little claw through the shipping crate and we had to crack our window and they just handed us both them. And we went, okay.
For some reason, that reminds me of the part of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride where they're trying to get the keys from the dog.
Oh, with the dog.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
So when you did your test, was it a nasal swab or did you have to?
It was a mouth one.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Did you
No, we
do the
didn't have to
nasal
vote.
one?
Yeah, I got the nasal swab.
How
Yeah.
was that?
It didn't, I wouldn't describe it as like pain, but it was like a little bit of like, it was super uncomfortable and a little bit of burning. And just, he put it in there and I was like, okay. It got to the point where I was like, boy, I sure hope he doesn't put that thing in any further. And by that point, he had already pulled it out actually, but it just like, the sensation was like still there. Kind of getting punched in the nose or like having water go up your nose or something like that.
Was there like a post-nasal drippy feeling afterwards?
Not a lot of drippiness, just kind of like like you want to do that a lot. Like
Yeah,
there's something irritating
Yeah.
you, it felt like.
That's unbelievable.
but you're
Um,
negative.
Negative. Yeah.
Great. Same.
To pivot real quick,
Oh, yeah.
congratulations all around. You guys have been staying like pretty creative throughout all this, which is commendable that you can even focus enough to make stuff. But you guys have been making vids and stuff?
Yeah, we're lucky that, well, I mean, so my job requires a lot of creativity. I'm basically a creative developer at the Adler with a totally different name. And now my job name has changed. Anyway, so much has happened.
You go by a different name at the Adler, like a pseudonym?
Yeah. This is Gary Doink Steppenpee.
No, but so I had to be creative for Adler, and then I'm also part of this photography group, so that's why I started doing my at-home clothes photo shoot, self-portraits, because
Those are nice.
yeah, that they were like, you should start doing this as a self-portrait series, and I was like, done.
Because at first you were doing it just to kind of make your coworkers laugh when you did Zoom meetings.
Yeah, it was a big joke. On day one of quarantine, I was like, I had to do an audition that morning. I had to do a self-tape, so I had to put like lipstick on and like makeup, and I was like, it's gonna be really funny when I pop onto a Zoom call at 9 a.m. and I'm already in like full makeup. So I just decided to be like, hey you guys, I hope it's okay, I'm just like in my at-home clothes, really scrubby. And then like when it came on, I had a fur jacket on and like all this makeup and like big earrings and stuff. Anyway, so it was a silly bit. And then my friend Lynette, whose birthday was that week, was like, I want you to do this every day. And I was like, okay. And I did it that whole week. Anyway, that became a thing. And once somebody like says to me, like, keep going, I'm like, all right. But I did end up having to take a break once layoffs were a thing. I was like,
Yeah. You went, there's nothing to dress up for right now.
Oh, no.
yeah.
It is so funny though. The idea that like you're so lavish that even just to like clean your bathroom, you're just in like an evening gown and like full makeup.
And you put nice
Okay.
elbow length gloves to scrub a toilet or something, or a bathtub.
Absolutely. And
What you gotta do?
I've felt, especially over the past few weeks, I've also been paused because I want to like focus on the Black Lives Matter movement and like elevating melanated voices. But I was thinking like, should I do one where I'm like reading an anti-racist book to be like, here we are in quarantine and this is like now what quarantine means, But then I'm also like, I don't know if that's appropriate and I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like it's, especially over the last few weeks, I'm hyper conscious of like anything that is said or it's
Intention versus perception has been really tricky for me to be like,
yeah.
What is that line? I don't know.
Right. So I'm not gonna risk it. But if any of y'all have thoughts on that, let me know.
I thought you were gonna say, but if you guys want to do it, go for it.
If you all want to do it, do it.
I mean, just do it. But I ain't doing it. I ain't touching that.
I'd honestly love to see how people react to you doing it before I do it.
Before I do it, please. Wait, you also just launched a podcast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that through the Adler too? Specifically? No.
No, that came about because our friend Nate DeFort, who's actually a producer that we knew through the time when we went out on a Second City cruise ship. He was our producer for that cruise ship contract. He recently has been working more on the podcast.
Remember cruise ships?
Whoa.
Robot Corey.
But yes, we'll get into cruise ships very soon.
Yeah, cruise ships is a whole nother thing. But anyway, we know. Remember cruise ships. So we know this guy through a cruise ship contract, and he's been producing this podcast called Unspookable, and it's about dispelling scary stories for kids. So it's aimed at a younger audience, and it is a podcast where they talk about like Bloody Mary. They talk about like the Kraken. They talk about the plague. They talk about all sorts of things that are scary that like kids, tell each other to scare each other, but then they talk about the etymology of it. They kind of dispel the myth and the scariness so that they're arming kids with like knowledge so that they're not like irrationally afraid of it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Is someone gonna take my kidneys?
Yeah. And they deal with topics like Slender Man.
Is that a thing?
Is that a thing where you wake up in a thing of ice?
And someone's
What?
like,
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if they've addressed the kidney thief yet.
Bye.
Someone took Corey. But
Corey, they took Corey's kidneys. Corey went, this stuff's too scary. And he had to leave. Wait, what is this kidney thing?
It's
It's just like an urban legend, yeah.
Well, what's the...
Meredith, you tell it. If
Yeah,
you
right.
remember.
it's like you are on a Greyhound bus, I think, and you suddenly fall asleep, and then you wake up and you're in someone's bathtub, and the bathtub's full of ice, and you're in ice, and you look down and you're like, what happened? And it's because someone took your kid.
Is the like thing not to do, like don't ever fall asleep on a Greyhound? Like what's it warning against?
I think it's like a stranger's thing, because I've also heard it as like picking someone up at a bar sort of thing, where you're like, oh, I'm cool, like look at this, like, and then just like it totally backfiring and be like, stole your kidneys,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
But also like Greyhounds, problematic.
There's the Greyhound story. That's a real story of someone who got their like stomach eaten.
What are you talking about?
Google Greyhound.
Google Greyhound stomach eaten.
Well, they talk about this. Should I subscribe to this to Unspookable though, and they'll be like, don't worry, arm me with the facts.
They don't talk about the Greyhounds on there, I don't think.
Okay.
But it still is a good podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he had an idea for a space-based podcast, and he had come with his daughter, Blythe, several times to the planetarium to see us, and like we would talk to her about space and stuff like that. So
he loves his daughter so much. He
Yeah.
drives to see her every week in Michigan. Like he says that she's his best friend. It's really nice.
yeah, they have a very sweet relationship.
She's like the inspiration for him doing these kids podcasts, because he's like, everything I do is for my fucking daughter. He loves her so much.
That's very inspiring.
Yeah. So I think when the idea for a space podcast came about, he immediately was like, Brian and Meredith, I'll reach out to them. And that was like last fall. So it's kind of been a slow process going, because this other podcast has been picking up steam a little bit, and we had to get things in line. And then of course the quarantine thing happened. So
Yeah.
but yeah, we just launched the podcast last
Tuesday.
Tuesday. For this is
Great.
airing, live streaming on a Saturday for anyone who listens to this in the future. But there are going to be full episodes that come out every other weekend or every other Tuesday, and then an episode, like a mini episode called Reaching Out, that is kids either calling in or emailing in like questions that then get answered on the off weeks of the full episodes. So it's like, it's cool because it's constantly involving and like trying to answer questions that kids have. And while we are mostly just the hosts, we like contribute some to the content, but it's mostly written by another gentleman named Sandy Marshall and produced by Nate. So
Great.
it's great. It's a great gig. Yeah.
That sounds so fun. And honestly, right now, it's like, let's get a podcast going.
Exactly.
You know, you can do a podcast. I mean,
Yeah.
that's also hugely beneficial too, that Brian, with like the audiobook work too. Like
Yeah.
right now you go, that is like COVID proof.
Yeah.
I know. I very often this year have thanked my lucky stars that I've been getting into audiobook stuff for the last 2 years, because it's all, for anyone who's listening, like I've become an audiobook narrator, and I do it all from home, from a little home
Right.
studio that I have.
How
And
small is it?
at home, it's in the closet of our guest room.
Right.
And
Oh.
I'm recording a book here in Michigan. It's half in the closet of Meredith's brother's room. I use closet spaces a lot and kind of just like pad them out, bring sound insulation and stuff like that for as much as I can do. And yeah.
Did you get excited at any point when the hole appeared where you're like, this could be a new studio space?
Yeah.
Finally, a little more room.
Finally, a little more.
That mold creates great insulation, great sound insulation.
And pads it with mold.
Just whispering into the hole.
He was thinking that our landlord, he's like, if our landlord is so good at cutting holes in walls, maybe he could cut one in the closet and insulate it for me.
I was like, yeah, maybe we can make this closet a little more soundproof or a little bigger.
Can you talk a little more about that, Brian? Like how you got into audiobooks and kind of like what that has been like for you?
Yeah, sure. I got into it about 3 years ago. Mostly, like you guys know what it's like. When you're an actor, you're always kind of looking for a job or for a gig that pays or something like that. That's also what brought me to the planetarium. It was a part-time job that involved an acting element because I was narrating planetarium shows, so kind of interacting with an audience and stuff like that. And I was like, I just need a gig. I would like something that involves voiceover because I wanted to get more into the voiceover world. But in Chicago, the voiceover world is limited mostly to commercials and stuff. You can't really work in animation, which is really what I wanted to do. But I started listening to more audiobooks, and it was after listening to 2 book series in particular, the Harry Potter books with Jim Dale narrating, and
by Jim Dale.
And by
Jim Dale.
By Jim Dale, no one else.
That was a Freudian slip that was in the right direction.
Yeah. Stephen Fry narrated all the Sherlock Holmes books. And I was like, this is...
Which he also wrote.
Yeah.
And Harry Potter, which he narrated and also wrote.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Amazing how many people collaborated to write Harry Potter. And so I was like, this isn't really kind of an amazing performance medium. I just became interested in it. And someone came through Chicago, did a workshop on it. And I went to that, and I went to some conferences. There's a conference in New York every year called the Audio Publishers Association Conference, which is
cool,
basically for audiobook producers and narrators. I went to that. I just kind of learned, and our friend Liz Sight had done a few audiobooks. There's a website called Audiobook Creation Exchange where you can connect with independent rights holders. So people who have written their own book and are trying to self-publish but want to have an audiobook. So it's been a really long journey, but even before we knew about this pandemic stuff, I was already on track to have it be my full-time job this year. So it was just it was perfect timing. Yeah.
Amazing.
Did you feel like you not having an English accent at the start was a disadvantage, seeing as who your inspirations were?
It certainly pissed me off. Yeah. And I think at the beginning I was like, I could probably do an English accent for a whole book, overestimating my powers,
I like an entire book where the accent slowly fades away. So by the end, it's just like, you don't even care anymore.
He started with an English accent, and then he became Australian at the end, but he was Southern for a little bit in there.
Very confusing. I love the intentional choice.
I recently listened to an audiobook where at the beginning of every new chapter, her voice was louder and her pace was quicker. And then by the end of each chapter, it was slower. And you can tell because then the next chapter would start and I'd be like, whoa. And it makes sense because you probably just do chapter by chapter, get worn out.
Yeah. So there's a lot of weird things about audiobook narration, but one thing is you come to learn and sort of despise your own voice in some ways because you listen to it so much and your mouth makes more noise than you could ever anticipate. When you have a good microphone and there's no other music in whatever you're making, there's nothing else, your mouth makes so much noise. So that's strange. To what Meredith said, you definitely can, I try and really spread my stuff out. I try not to do a whole book in 2 days or something like that because you can hear your voice get tired and stuff like that. So you gotta kind of pace it out a little bit.
Do you read the book prior to doing it, or do you just cold read the whole thing? That'd be crazy.
No, I always read the book beforehand, and I've done a lot of good workshops and have a lot of good teachers and stuff like that. So this is all stuff that comes from them. But you can't, as a narrator, you have to know where the story's going.
Oh yeah.
You have to know what the subtext is of everything. You have to know any moments of foreshadowing, stuff like that. So you got to know all that. So I always read the book beforehand. Yeah.
Do you guys ever listen to audiobooks together?
Yeah.
I've had a lot of trouble during this quarantine, I think, listening to podcasts or like an audiobook or something, just because it feels like I have way less time where I'm specifically alone, which is usually the time I would listen to like something.
Yeah.
Brian and I, even though we both are obviously sharing the same space, we spend a lot of time together. There are a lot of days that go by where we're just like in two different rooms, not with each other, and like I'll put in an audiobook and just walk around to get like Fitbit steps or whatever, like by myself, or I'll go for walks by myself. But that is totally a thing, and we love listening to audiobooks together too.
Before the pandemic, and when I was still working at the Adler, on days when we would work together, we would listen to audiobooks like on our drive. With traffic, it's like 45 minutes to the planetarium, so that's a good amount of time. We also always eat breakfast together. We're married, by the way, for any additional context that's needed.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Meredith is real?
I thought you just totally ended up being in the same place when this started, and then you just were stuck with each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, someone has to have done that story already, right? Like,
It's like
we are quarantined together.
Oh yeah, it's a Lifetime movie, or it's about to be. It's
every play that's coming out next
so
year.
many plays and movies and screenplays and novels, and we could just skip it. That's okay.
Honestly, the arts world is going to be an absolute boring mess for like the next 5 years.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, folks.
I don't know what I'm saying. Who cares? So we listen to audiobooks together. We've listened to the Harry Potter series like 4 or 5 times, written by Jim Dale. Mm-hmm. And what other books have we listened to?
A ton.
It's good, except for I don't like how Jim Dale goes, Harry.
Harry.
Yeah, sometimes his Hermione in the early books is a little trying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But some of our favorites, like what was the one where we were crying? Oh, Song of Achilles. We listened to that one together and just like sobbed.
Yeah.
Circe, by the same author. And then the Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane. That was another one.
That was a long title to finish together.
Yeah.
Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane.
Lane.
We also finished that together and like sobbed in the car. We sob in the car finishing books together a lot.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Actually, our favorite story of listening to an audiobook together in the car was we were listening to Harry Potter, and we were on our way home to Michigan for my brother's wedding, and we had like just hit the road, and I hadn't been feeling very good all day. But anyway, we had just hit the road. We're in the car, and it was spoiler coming up for anyone who hasn't read Harry Potter, so quiet your ears if you don't want to know.
Quiet your ears.
Quiet. Oh, okay.
Siri, ears volume down.
But anyway, it's the part where Dobby dies. So Dobby dies, and it was that part.
I'm blue, Dobby dies.
And Brian was driving, and I was in the car.
Man, Meredith, you're breaking down fast right now.
We went for a big hike earlier, and now I'm loopy. Anyway,
it was whiskey.
Oh my god.
So Dobby died, and Brian was like, he was like starting to cry, and he like looked over at me, and I was like, oh, and he like thought I was like so sad, so he reached over and was like going like this to me.
While I'm driving, I'm driving going like, Dobby, poor Dobby.
Not looking at the road, just completely.
Yeah.
And he thinks I'm sad because of Dobby. He's got tears coming down his eyes, and he's like, I'm sorry. And then I went,
oh no.
And I had a present. I'd painted my brother up and sister-in-law up a painting, and I had it in the back. I had wrapped it in 2 trash bags to like keep it safe in case something happened. I don't know. And I like reached back and pulled the trash bag off of the thing and just like was like
I thought you were gonna say that you barfed into the air conditioning and the AC
flew back on the painting.
And you're like, thank God those trash bags are on there.
No, it was the dead of winter. It was December, and I was puking. Anyway, it didn't stop. At first I thought like, oh, I'm good, but it ended up being like a very severe flu or something.
That is miserable.
Or just the emotional weight of that moment hit you harder than it ever has before.
It might be that. But we ended up having to turn around and go back. But it was rush hour traffic. So turning around and going back home, plus like all the stops we had to make because I kept having to puke, was like 3 hours. It was.
Oh no.
Wait, did you make it to the wedding?
Yeah, we went home.
We went home and then went back the next day.
Yeah, in the morning I was like done throwing up and I crawled into the back seat of the car and curled up in a ball, and Brian drove the whole way home. By the time my brother's wedding happened, I was like recovered enough to like be dancing. I could barely eat food yet, but like, you know how bugs go. It's like when they end, you have like a couple days where you're like, I feel weird.
Oh yeah. And you're walking around and everything you look at, you're like, It's just, I feel you. But that's great that you got to dance at your brother's wedding.
I was really scared of giving it to them too for their wedding. I was like, don't come near me.
Yeah, don't do the traditional sibling kiss on the altar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy wedding day. Like, get the fuck away from me.
Yeah, please. I don't want to give you anything. I don't want to love you. I love you, so don't let me love you.
Anyway, you guys are married?
We are, which is another thing we've been very thankful for.
Prove it.
During
do your vow. Do your
We
vows.
don't have wedding rings.
Oh, controversial.
Kind of an interesting thing about us.
How does that work in public? When people come up to you both and hit on you?
Hit on you separately.
We have to start a relationship with that person
Yeah.
and see it through to its natural end, and then we go back to being married.
Yeah, there's no point in bringing it up as a point of like, you just go, I'll just roll with this.
It's like that Rick and Morty episode where he's in the video game and he lives the entire life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what happened.
It'd be way too complicated to explain why we don't have rings. So I'd love to see you next week.
Do you guys pretend to have rings sometimes? Are you sometimes like smoking a big old cigar and you just take the ring off and you just go, marry me again, Meredith?
We have like wedding bracelets, which I'm wearing.
I don't wear mine.
He never wears his ever. But we made them for like our wedding party too. And then June made me mine because I was like, she made everything that I wore. So June made me mine. I made Brian's. And they all have like a little message on them. You have Joe, you have one.
Yeah. I'll go get it.
Oh, that's cute. But we made the bracelets, which was way more time consuming than I thought. It was actually the most time consuming wedding activity that we ended up doing, but it was really fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no wedding rings. I just never have wanted one, and Brian was like, cool.
I'm married to you too.
And it says, we love you, Joey.
It says, yeah. And when you gave this to me, you both whispered it in my ear and kissed me very passionately.
Yeah.
That was
a
never
special
fly
moment.
now. That was a thing of the past.
No kissing.
I know. That's frustrating.
COVID has taken away all our passionate lovemaking with our friends.
Yeah. We used to just roll up and just spit right in each other's mouths.
Yeah. There's nothing like just taking off all your clothes with your friends and just laying on each other's bodies.
Yeah, I'm so bummed.
I came upon that picture from Apocalypto rehearsals the other day where we're all just laying on top of each other like 6 people high.
Yes.
When did we do that?
It was just during one of those rehearsals where we went little
probably
man.
the start of my back problems. That really did irreparable damage, didn't it?
Should we pivot to
let's
bring in some outside questions?
Don't we normally wrap up first?
Well, but that's the thing. We always do the intro and the outro to the podcast, and we could just end when we're talking about sex with friends.
Yeah.
But like in terms of like having them plug stuff, like we usually like conclude that.
This will probably come out in about a month and a half, so
who knows what the landscape will be like, if the internet will even be online anymore.
Yeah, if there's anything, the internet might be down by then.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It might be offline internet.
Well, we'll plug for sure. Meredith's been doing some vlogs. So
Hell yeah.
You can check out Meredith's vlog channel. What's your YouTube channel?
I don't know.
Meredith?
Probably Meredith or Meredith S.
All right. So there's that. And today we wrote this song about turtles that we were like, we should do more funny videos, like
Oh yeah,
how
did
you
we
always
sing
do
it?
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we saw a turtle on our first day here, and we keep going back to that spot to see if we see the turtle again. We haven't yet, but we wrote a song. It goes,
Turtle Town, activate. Turtle Town, investigate. Who is left in Turtle Town?
The tiny turtle village where not a sound is heard. Oh, is made by the turtles. Grass, little tiny turtles, show me your ass.
And by ass I mean tail. Don't tuck it into your turtle shell.
That's
Oh,
cool.
man.
It feels like one of those 90s like hip hop. Like I imagine you guys in like head to toe tracksuits, just like
And it's
like parachute pants.
like for a toy or something where it's just you're like, what? And you see all these kids playing.
Turtle Town. So there's that. Check out Meredith.
Okay.
Hopefully reach our podcast will still be going. It's a space podcast for kids. And you can always check out my audiobooks that I have.
Do you link them through your website? How does like one go to find everything you've done?
Everything I've done is at hellobrianholden.com.
All right.
Yes.
Yum.
Let's all say yum yum, and that's what we'll fade out on. Yum 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 yum
Yum.
Yum. Always a delight, those two. And in case you were wondering, their hole was indeed plugged. Now, if you want to hear the full version of our chat with Brian and Meredith, or watch the video version, or catch future interviews live, you can do all of that when you become a TCB patron at patreon.com/TinCamBros. In addition to our monthly Talking Trash live stream, there are a ton of other great perks. And as a special this month, we'll be mailing all patrons at the Lover tier and higher a limited edition TCB trading card. So be sure to check that out. That's going to be really cool. Collect them all! So we'll be back next week when we talk to the wonderful Ashley Clements. And yeah, thanks for listening. Stay safe out there and take a moment to think about, when was the last time you cleaned your phone? It's filthy. You should probably clean it now. Just a little reminder. Bye!